But anyways, for my rant this week, I thought it might be a good time to recap our wet, muggy Omicron summer and all the stuff-ups from Scott Morrison and New South Wales Premier Dominic Perrottet that made the summer so damn miserable. But first, let's recap. Now, when I did my last regular episode of Newsfighters last year at the beginning of December, Omicron had just arrived in Australia and we didn't know much about it.
Good evening. The new variant of COVID-19 is now in the community.
The Omicron variant has reached Australia.
Right now, little is known about this new variant.
A woman unknowingly infected with the Omicron strain spent days in shops and eateries across Sydney.
The infected person had been in the community for 2 days and went on a shopping spree.
What the hell is it with Aussies going on shopping sprees when they have COVID? Do they wake up in the morning and it's like, is that a sore throat? Oh, well, maybe I'll just go to a Bunnings IKEA and 15 barbecues galore today. I'll just scale it back a bit. Well, we didn't know much about Omicron in early December. Well, we quickly learned what it was capable of.
From 108,000 tests yesterday, a third came back positive.
More than 11,000 new infections.
The state today passed 200,000 COVID infections since the start of the pandemic.
More than 50 lives lost in a single day.
Nationally, more than 64,000 infections were detected today.
New South Wales has recorded almost 92,000 new infections.
Australia has recorded more than 116,000 new COVID cases.
The Health Minister says there's been more than 1.2 million COVID-19 cases in Australia since the middle of December.
And wow, what a shift in thinking Australia's had to do since Omicron came along. You know, 6 or 8 months ago, we'd locked down whole states or suburbs over like a dozen cases, and now it's like 30,000 cases a day and the gym's open. But the numbers got so bad in Australia over the summer that even the rest of the world was like, ugh, go away.
With Europe and America now urging citizens to avoid travel to Australia.
Yes, that's right. America told Americans not to come to Australia because of our COVID case numbers. I mean, that's like an Australian telling another Australian, oh, those Americans, they're so rude. They drop the C-bomb in conversation so much. Can you believe it? Anyways, it's been interesting looking at the worldwide response to Omicron because some countries saw how contagious it was and decided it was time to hit the brakes a little bit, like New Zealand and Canada here.
As I set out this week, our strategy is to slow the spread of Omicron down.
We need to prevent Omicron from overwhelming our healthcare systems. In order to do that, we have to keep contacts low.
But meanwhile, in Australia, our leaders like Scott Morrison and New South Wales Premier Dominic Perrottet decided, it's Christmas, let it rip.
Omicron is a gear change and we have to push through.
Opening up is the best thing we can do for our economy.
We have no choice but to ride the wave. What's the alternative? What we must do is press on.
The best way out of this pandemic is to continue to stand strong and push through.
You've got two choices here. You can push through or you can lock down. We're for pushing through.
It's a difficult and challenging road, but it's the right road to take. The alternative is lockdown, and that is not the right approach.
Yeah, guys, it's either one or the other. You either lock down or have total freedom for everybody everywhere. There is no in between. You know, it's a bit like drinking. We all know there are only two options when it comes to drinking alcohol. There's either complete abstinence or being rip-roaring drunk 24/7. There's no middle road here. It's freedom or lockdowns. No, seriously though, our normally freedom-loving Premier Dominic Perrottet did decide to bring in some modest restrictions to try and slow Omicron down. Now, it wasn't anything draconian, don't worry. It wasn't like he was going to stop unvaccinated people going to the gyms or the theatre or you from having 300 people over to your house for a cocktail party. No. Dominic Perrottet decided the best way to stop Omicron was to shut down outdoor music festivals.
One music festival after another has been forced to cancel because of the Omicron wave.
The Tamworth Country Music Festival is postponed because of new COVID safety measures.
Electric Music Festival on the Newcastle foreshore planned to go ahead Saturday, but this afternoon was cancelled by public health order.
But not all outdoor music festivals.
Videos show hundreds of people singing and dancing at a Hillsong youth camp near Newcastle, with no masks in sight.
Hillsong is standing firm on its decision to hold the event, saying it was not similar to a music festival in any way.
Yeah, guys, it's nothing like a music festival. I mean, for one thing, I didn't see any sniffer dogs or police strip-searching teenagers for fun. I mean, what's a music festival without those things? Sadly, there were other religious experiences taking place this summer at our Overwhelmed hospitals and aged care homes.
Nursing homes across the country are at breaking point, with hundreds of centres now facing COVID outbreaks.
More than 3,000 healthcare workers are currently isolating after being exposed.
A code brown has been issued to every major hospital in Victoria, empowering them to call thousands of staff back from leave and postpone non-essential services. Code browns are reserved for natural disasters and mass casualty events.
Yes, and that's also the first time that Scott Morrison has heard the words code brown since Engadine McDonald's in 1997. Sorry. Oh, no. I've used up all my Scott Morrison pooed his pants allowance for the entire year. I can't make another joke about that till 2023 now. Damn it. Yes, our aged care system fell into such a crisis over the summer that the military had to be called in to help. But don't worry, it's not a crisis, according to Scott Morrison.
And I want to thank everybody for the incredible work they're doing to keep those in our care in the best possible care we can provide in a crisis, in a situation of this nature.
Geez, you can just imagine if Scott Morrison was a history teacher, he'd be telling all his students about the 1979 Iran hostage situation of this nature and the 1956 Suez Canal situation of this nature, because, nothing's ever a crisis on his watch. Meanwhile, Deputy PM Barnaby Joyce, again, I still can't believe those are actual words, I have to say with my actual mouth, but yes, Deputy Australian Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce was telling us to look on the bright side.
Can the government really say that we are the envy of the world?
Well, people are not dying. I mean, that is
people
the issue.
Are dying. People are dying every day.
Sorry, correction. You were correct. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah. We're currently averaging 60 people a day dying in the country, Barnaby, exponentially worse than at any other point during the entire pandemic so far. Can you imagine if this guy was around during the September 11 attacks? Barnaby would be like, it's not like planes are crashing. Oh, wait, yes they are. Sorry, you're correct. I shouldn't have said that. And with all these deaths happening every day, Scott Morrison decided this was an opportune time to go to the cricket and stop by the commentary box and offer some unique insight.
We've got many challenges there, as we know at the moment, but this is Australia living with the virus. Look at out there, and Australians taking wickets in the virus.
They are indeed.
60 families are grieving every day, but yes, it's just like taking wickets at the cricket. Thank you. Solid comparison there. For those worried about COVID this summer, Morrison and Perrottet did offer this advice.
This is just the movement into the era of personal responsibility as we move through the next phase of the pandemic.
At the end of the day, our own health is our own responsibility.
This is all about taking personal responsibility, and the people of New South Wales are doing just that.
If you feel uncomfortable about going out in other public spaces, well, you can choose to stay home.
And choose to stay home they did, as our usual summer month off of boozy barbecues, pub catch-ups and beach holidays basically turned into another lockdown.
We might as well be in lockdown. Empty streets and empty shelves all around Sydney, leaving our economic recovery in peril.
The latest data from ANZ shows that spending in Sydney is at its lowest since the pandemic began.
Many businesses are now operating in effectively a shadow lockdown. There is almost no financial support.
And if you're wondering why people weren't going out and exercising their personal responsibility, well, it turns out they couldn't get their hands on rapid tests to do so.
Well, forget about the toilet paper. The rush is now on for rapid antigen tests.
As soon as they hit the shelves, they're gone.
We tried to get a rapid test yesterday. We went to about 10 different places, sold out.
For a first world country, we had just never seen anything like this before.
Yes, and well, thank God that Murdoch's Sky News knew exactly who was to blame for the lack of rapid tests. Those damn health bureaucrats.
Well, Australia's top health bureaucrats have some serious explaining to do. It's time they face the music about their handling of rapid antigen tests, or the lack thereof. Because what you're seeing play out right now is a disaster. Let's be truthful on this. Whether they like it or not, key chief health teams in the states and territories are largely responsible for this problem. They're largely responsible for testing. And because they have not advised their leaders to order these test kits.
What expert analysis from Sky News. It's never the politicians' fault. It's those damn bureaucrats. I certainly am sure they'll remember that when Labor wins office next. And again, Australia's top genius, Barnaby Joyce, knew why there were no rapid tests. It's because people bought all the rapid tests.
The Deputy Prime Minister today placing some of the blame on everyday Australians, claiming people are buying more than they need.
And there have been some instances of hoarding of rat tests. And if they hadn't hoarded, other people who wanted one would have got one.
Surely the government can't seriously be blaming individuals for hoarding tests.
It's definitely been a factor, and to tell you otherwise is also not telling the truth. Hoarding has been a factor.
Yes, and who do you think could stockpile rapid tests, Barnaby Joyce? Because it wasn't the minimum wage essential workers. I think you'll find it was rich people stockpiling rapid tests, exactly as you intended the system to work. Yes, so with Omicron going crazy and there being a complete lack of rapid tests, well, the supply chain soon collapsed in many places because close contacts couldn't go to work without an elusive negative rapid test result.
A close contact who is asymptomatic, doesn't have symptoms, must have a rapid antigen test.
Empty supermarket shelves are spreading far beyond the toilet paper aisle as the Omicron variant takes hold and thousands of workers are forced to isolate.
Between 25 and 50% of workforces are reporting absent on any one day.
Queensland's major industries continue to face potentially catastrophic staff shortages with no rapid antigen test deliveries in sight. Meat supply, transport and power systems remain on shaky ground as unions beg for urgent rapid kit supplies.
If we want to increase the supply of workers, we need to have free rapid antigen tests available for them to do that safely. It's the only way.
Coincidentally, a
close contact
is also what Liberals call anyone who's been stuck in a room with Scott Morrison. There was one smart business in South Australia, though, that had a great idea about how to get around worker shortages because they all had COVID, and that was send them to work with COVID.
The union movement scathing of a South Australian abattoir and supplier for Woolworths, where COVID-positive staff returned to work for a couple of days under an exemption granted by state health authorities.
Honey, does this meat seem tasteless to you? I bought the meat that's been marinated in COVID-19 coronavirus. Again. Oh, well, at least it's not that smoky southern barbecue flavour. That's really bad. So with everyone around Australia begging for free and accessible rapid tests this summer, Scott Morrison finally stood up and told us to bugger off.
We're at another stage of this pandemic now where we just can't go around and make everything free. We have to live with this virus.
But you know who did make them free? America. Yes, that's right. The land of cancer bankruptcies and $300 asthma puffers became the land of the free rapid tests.
We'll be getting these tests to Americans for free. And we'll have websites where you can get them delivered to your home.
I think it says a lot about the prime ministership of Scott Morrison that for the very first time in my entire life, I'm looking at part of the American healthcare system and I'm like, I wish we were like that. But don't worry, Scott Morrison did finally come to his senses and realise that to get workers back to work, keep shelves stocked and get the economy moving again, the government would have to give out free rapid tests to retired pensioners who stay home all day.
Concession card holders will soon get free access to rapid antigen tests. They can collect them from pharmacies from January 24, with a limit of 10 in 3 months. Under the plan, low-income earners, welfare recipients and pensioners will be able to collect the tests for free from pharmacies, with a limit of 10 over 3 months. They'll also be provided to veterans.
Wow, even veterans are getting free rapid tests. Kind of makes me want to go out and do some war crimes. Legal note, I'm not implying all Australian veterans did war crimes, just some of them. Well, at least the federal government finally stepped up and supplied free rapid tests to pharmacies. What's that? Sorry, what? What? They had to source their own?
Pensioners have been turned away as day one of the free rapid test rollout ran out of rapid tests.
But the rush for rats hasn't been matched by any major increase in supply yet. Many chemists are still waiting for shipments to arrive.
Pharmacies say the lack of free rapid antigen tests isn't only due to supply chain issues. Some simply can't afford to buy them up front and then wait for the government to pay them back.
Yes, that's right. The Morrison government said there'd be free rapid tests for pensioners and then left it to the chemists to source them for themselves and the government would reimburse them at a later date at less than the market rate. Gee, Scott Morrison's the kind of a guy that if you invited him to a bring-a-plate potluck dinner party, he'd turn up empty-handed and offer to reimburse you $5 later on down the track. Just send him an invoice. But Scott Morrison did have some genius ideas to try and get the supply chains working again.
In an effort to iron out problems in supply chains, several ideas have been discussed, including further cutting isolation periods for infectious people from 7 to 5 days, and possibly even allowing under 18s to drive forklifts.
Well, I can't believe I'm even having to say this, but children should not drive forklifts. It is dangerous. The fact that this idea is even in the Prime Minister's head is extremely concerning.
Yes, kids driving forklifts. I can't believe that was a thing. But I mean, hey, what's the worst that could happen? At least they'd probably know where the rapid tests are, unlike this government. And it didn't stop there. Morrison also had the bright idea of fixing the economy by inviting backpackers and international students to return.
As the government promises to pay the price for visa applications to entice foreigners to work here.
My message to them is, come on down. Come on down now.
Yeah, come on down, all you guys who I abandoned 2 years ago with no financial support and told you to go home.
At times like this, if you're a visitor in this country, it is time, as it has been now for some while, and I know many visitors have, to make your way home.
But anyways, looking at the polls, seems like I'm not the only one angry with Scott Morrison.
On a two-party preferred basis, the ALP lead 56 to 44.
If an election were to be held today, on today's news poll numbers, the coalition would lose 25 seats and lose government.
And if you're wondering what kind of an election campaign we could be in for, well, I mean, Morrison himself tried to make it look like he was a COVID wartime Prime Minister, but I think this year he wants to make himself look like a wartime Prime Minister.
Yes, Kieran, we were talking last year about the prospects of a khaki election, and I don't think it could be any clearer that Scott Morrison is pitching for this from his comments with our colleague Paul Murray last night.
Because in national security, there are only really two courses you can go down. You can appease, or you can stand up for what you believe in as a country.
So, anyways, after a horrible December and January of cancelled plans, empty shelves, workers off sick, overwhelmed hospitals, an aged care sector in situation of this nature, and a possible war with either Russia or China on the horizon. I mean, I don't know, ask Peter Dutton. I have to say, all this horribleness absolutely pales in comparison to the single worst thing inflicted upon the Australian people this summer by a Liberal. I am, of course, talking about the Season 3 return of Christopher Pine's podcast, Pine Time.
I have to admit, Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. Thursday, Friday, happy days. The weekend comes, but I go on, ready to wait for you.
Yes, it's not something you ever normally hear an Australian say, but after this summer, I'm really looking forward to winter. And most of all, I'm looking forward to Scott Morrison telling the Governor-General to...
Come on down. Come on down now.